this talk tonight about financial aid because obviously it's a very big topic and there's a lot of changes happening in the United States government as it relates to FAFSA.
Mhm.
And FAFSA is the free financial aid application that any student or family that wants to get financial aid from the government and from the school typically will need to apply. Not typically, you have to apply through the FAFSA. So the FAFSA historically is the worst application to fill out outside of your college application. It has 108 questions that are so the only word that comes to mind is annoying. And unfortunately, for those of you with students in 11th grade, this is not going to apply to you for their school year, but it will apply to you in their second year of college. So it's good that you know this now so that you understand potentially new opportunities that can open up for you for money. So the FAFSA normally is 108 questions. The easiest way to fill that application out is by syncing your IRS tax return with the application. So they usually give you that option to do it. If you don't have access to your IRS tax information for whatever reason, which it has happened in the past, it is excruciating to fill out this application and have to copy paste your I'm hearing an echo for some reason. Would you guys mind just maybe muting just in case it might be doing something? Okay. So yeah, so this application is horrible to fill out. You have to look at your taxes and go line by line, figuring out what question they're asking you, and it's very hard to understand. So there's a new bill that was passed. It's called the Future Act by the United States government. And now there's an amazing shift happening finally to make it easier for you to apply to get financial aid. So I'm gonna just kind of go down the list of the most important pieces of this bill that is going to directly impact you and make a big difference for you. So the number one thing is that it is going to be available with this new FAFSA facelift starting October of 2022. So it's not going to be available for this year, which means any high school juniors applying for college for next year, it's not going to be available, but it will be available their second year. So October 22, all these new changes are supposed to take place. So one of the things is that the FAFSA is going to go from 108 questions to 36. Amazing. Only 36 questions and you're going to have access to money. The next thing is when you fill out the FAFSA, the two options of money that's going to be offered to you from the federal government is in the form of what's called a Pell Grant, P-E-L-L grant, which is free money that you do not have to pay back, and loans, which you do have to pay back. But these are healthy loans if you take a reasonable amount. So going back, just to summarize, the federal government gives you either a Pell Grant, which is free money you don't have to pay back, or a loan. Then the institution, the university to which you're going to be applying to, also has their own bucket of money and financial aid, which they would also potentially give you in the form of grants, which is free money you don't have to pay back, or scholarship, which is also free money you don't have to pay back. If it's financial aid related based on your income, it's usually called a grant. If it's based on your students' academic achievements, it's called a scholarship. So the change is that now these Pell Grants that they used to give, so the actual amount that it's going to go up is going to be, the maximum total for a Pell Grant will be now $6,495. So that will, in comparison to a yearly tuition, that might not sound like much, to be honest, because tuition nowadays at a private university can cost $50,000 a year. So what is $6,500 going to do for me? But it could make a big difference for if you're attending a public or in-state public university, and also a public out-of-state university potentially. The other thing to know is the new change is also going to be able to tell you ahead of time if you qualify for a Pell Grant. So before and now, you would have to fill out the whole application to then find if you do qualify for financial aid or not. With these new changes taking effect, you'll now be able to know beforehand if you qualify for a Pell Grant and more or less for how much. The other change that's going to be taking effect for the FAFSA application is that the magic number and formula that used to be called the EFC, which again, this year it still will be called EFC, which stands for Expected Family Contribution, is now going to be called SAI, which stands for Student Aid Index. So the problem with this terminology is that it created a lot of guilt amongst the parents that would be filling out these applications in hope for money. And then they receive the EFC, which what it means is how much money you're expected to pay. It's your expected family contribution. So there's all of a sudden this expectation of how much money you should have saved or had available for your child to attend college. And it just had a really negative connotation to it. And the reality is that number is off almost always. That's never an accurate representation, really, of what you could really afford for your child to go to college. There's always additional circumstances that might not be in the FAFSA application questions. And as a result, you don't know how to back it up or justify it in your mind, besides just saying, this is unrealistic. I can't afford the $20,000 a year they're telling me I could afford for my college when I have 3 other kids lined up to also go to college. Or I only make this amount of money per year. How are you going to tell me that my expected family contribution is $20,000? So the government has now changed that. And now it's called the Student Aid Index. I don't know how much that's supposed to help you psychologically, but I hope it does. I hope it gives a little bit of relief to know that now it's not expected of you. Now it's just, it is what it is, right? It's just, this is based on this. This is how much you might owe for college. Another change that is going to be made for the FAFSA is income protection allowance. So before, now, I'm gonna say now because it's still happening now. Now, the government takes your parents, you, and your students' income, all of it, into account to know if you can afford, to know how much financial aid they should give you. Now, in the future, they're going to implement income protection allowance, which shields a percentage of your income and your students' income if they work. So that's going to also put you in a better position to hopefully qualify for financial aid or a little bit more. Now, one little tip I will share, people typically think that having things under their children's name is going to help shield your income as a parent, and that you might qualify for more financial aid if things were under your child's name. And the reality is, it's worse. Money that's trust accounts under your children's name, it's okay if they have a job and they make a couple, some money on the side and they have a little checking account, that's fine. I'm talking about savings account under your child's name of $30,000 or more, something in a larger scale. You'd probably be better off having those accounts under your name for now, because it's a higher percentage in the formula for a student's income than it is for a parent's income, or money under a parent's name versus money under a student's name. So you should look into that and talk to your accountant or financial advisor or anyone that can help with college costs or college financial planner that can potentially help you with that. Another change is now students that are incarcerated will be eligible for financial aid. I don't think any of you have that issue, but you never know. It could happen. And I guess it would be a good thing if someone that was incarcerated would want to receive an education while incarcerated. And then another eligibility is if your son or daughter, God forbid, had any drug-related convictions, they will still be eligible for FAFSA. So up until right now, if you are incarcerated or had any drug-related convictions, you would not qualify for a financial aid. And starting October 2022, for the school year 2023-2024, you will be eligible. Another thing that is a big deal, I feel, especially here in Miami with Latin families that are extremely protective of their babies, is that the FAFSA will now be removing the requirement for your son to join the Selective Service. Now, that is a big deal because I've had parents not fill out the financial aid application because they did not want their child to be automatically enrolled into the Selective Service, which is the military. So that requirement will now be removed and you will not have to worry about having that obligation. And one of the last things I wanted to point out was that now universities now, if you go on their website and you put the name of a school, let's just say you go on Google and you put University of Miami cost of attendance. Cost of attendance is a summary of what it would cost to attend the school. And it takes into consideration your tuition, which is the cost per, for each course you enroll in. It takes into account any school fees, housing, food, I believe, transportation, and books, something along those lines. But it doesn't go into the details. And I know that sounds like a lot of details, but it's not enough details. So now, as universities will be required to disclose all cost of attendance elements on their website. So you'll be able to see a little bit more detail what it's really going to cost you. Now, a lot of these costs are always highly intimidating. And I mean, for a very good reason, because it's very expensive. But you have to also keep certain things in mind. Unfortunately, colleges are like going to buy a car at a dealership. You never pay the full sticker price, right? There's always some deal you get. It's always like a special that you just happen to walk into and you are the lucky one. And everybody else that walked into the dealership was also lucky too. And that's how college works. You always get the discount. And the discount is what they call a scholarship or sometimes a grant. So those are basically the biggest changes for the FAFSA. I think it's, like I said, I just want you guys to be well informed because for those with junior parents, you will be doing these new changes, filling out the application for these new changes in your second year. And for those that have students in 10th grade, 9th grade, you will be applying when these new changes take effect. So that's a great thing. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today was ways to save for college. So lots of people think scholarships, and I get hundreds of questions about scholarships all day long. And yes, scholarships are a great way to, not spend a lot of money for college, but that's not the only way. So I want to share a couple of ways that maybe you didn't think about before that might, give you some ideas. All right, guys. So I love all the questions. I know this is always such a hot topic, right? Money. Money is always a hot topic. All right, so here are some ideas to save money in college. Okay, one of them, the first one is accelerated programs. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have thought about this, but if you have children that are high achievers, that are, doing really great in school and have a passion for any pre-professional programs and you feel that they have proven their commitment to want to pursue that, accelerated programs like a medical program at University of Alabama, Birmingham is a great way of saving money, because this will guarantee admission into med school, as well as potentially decrease the number of years in med school and your bachelor's. And also, sometimes scholarships will roll over into those programs. So accelerated programs for any mostly health related fields is an amazing way to save money. Number two is take dual enrollment classes while in high school. Now, for those of you that are working with me, know I preach this all day long. Dual enrollment is an amazing way to show colleges that you are college ready. That's what a college wants to see. When you're applying to their school, they want to know, are you going to be able to handle the curriculum here? Are you going to be successful, and are you going to contribute to the community, or are you just going to be studying all day because you can't catch up? If you take dual enrollment classes, you're already telling the college, I already did this. I'm good. Look at my grades. Look at my performance. Now, catch-22 is if you don't do good in those classes, you've just started your own permanent college record with bad grades. So dual enrollment classes, for the most part, in my experience, all students that have done it have all over 3.0 GPAs. They're all very good students, and they successfully pass these dual enrollment classes and do very well, and colleges love them. Now, there is a love-hate relationship with dual enrollment classes when you apply for college, because basically you already took those classes. So that means less money for them. Will that impact your admission? No, never. Colleges will still want you there. The only thing that they might be able to say is, well, we're not going to take those classes. You're still going to have to take my class. You're still going to have to take my class at my campus. It happens, especially at very prestigious universities like Harvard and Yale. They feel that their class is there's no replacement class for that. The same class that the ENC 1101 that you might have taken at Miami-Dade or FIU is not going to be equivalent to my ENC 1101 at Harvard. So that's the only other thing that can happen. But for most of the schools, dual enrollment classes will transfer over for the credit that you took it for, or at the very least will count as an elective. And you will need electives to graduate in college. So it will not go wasted. Number 3 is pass AP exams with a 3 or higher. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but due to COVID-19 and all of the interruptions with testing for the SAT and ACT, most schools, except for Florida public schools, which, we're just special like that, are now test optional, which means you don't have to take, if you didn't score good enough or you didn't get a chance to score, whatever your reason is, they don't care. You don't have to submit test scores if you feel it's not a good representation of who you are academically. But what's happening now is that because it's test optional, they're looking at other criteria that before they wouldn't look at. So AP exams were typically not considered in the admission decision. It would be looked at as a bonus, right? Like, oh, cool, this student has 4 AP classes that they got a score of a 4 in. Great. But it wasn't a determining factor. But what's going to happen now for those parents with students that are a junior now for next year, they are going to pay more attention to these exams. So these AP exams, if your student is taking AP exams or Cambridge exams, unfortunately, not enough schools in the country are recognizing Cambridge exams. So those might not get the credit they deserve, but AP exams will be looked at. Universities right now have no idea what they're doing. Some of them have, they're trying to figure it out as the time comes. But I'm telling you, from my experience and from the research that I've done, this is going to be new elements that's going to have a bigger lens, right? They're going to have a bigger lens on that. So I would recommend that. The other thing, another option is enroll in a dual enrollment high school. So for example, in Miami, Florida, or in South Florida, there's one called SAS, which is called School for Advanced Studies. There's another one called Broward College. Something, it's through Broward College, now I'm forgetting the name. And these schools, basically you graduate with your high school diploma and your AA, which is the first 2 years of college. It's an incredible program. You receive your associate's in arts degree and your high school diploma at the same time. So that means you can, once you go to college, you have 2 years left and you're done. So for those of you that don't have this opportunity, even in your own high school, if you opt in to dual enrollment, you could do a whole year of dual enrollment at another school, at a community college or a university. And if you attend a public school, at least in Miami-Dade County, by law, through Miami-Dade County, they have to provide you that opportunity and they will pay for it if it's not offered at your school. So they can't deny you your education. So if you feel that the program you want to study, the curriculum you want to study is not offered at your school, but it's offered at FIU or Miami-Dade, you can go to those schools. So I know a student that went for a whole year, was a student at Mass Academy, and went a whole year to dual enrollment to FIU. This student got incredible scholarship opportunities, way more than a typical student, and has a year done of college. So that's another option as well. Option number 6, if you have college credits in high school, you can get your master's and still get covered with your undergraduate scholarship, like the More in 4 program at FSU. So talking about Florida, Florida has a Bright Future Scholarship, which is what I'm talking about. So the Bright Future Scholarship, which is through the Florida Lottery, has certain requirements that you have to meet in order to get the scholarship. But if your student meets these requirements, your student will either get a 75% scholarship or 100% scholarship to a public Florida university. And a Florida public university is like FIU, UCF, UF in Gainesville, FSU in Tallahassee, those type of universities. Now, More in 4 means if your child already is coming in with college credits and maybe doesn't have 4 years of college, maybe only has 3 years left of college, but you don't want to lose that opportunity of that scholarship that you got, you can use that last year or 2 years or whatever extra time you have left to get your master's program, to get your master's degree. So FSU has this program. It's called More in 4, and it's an amazing opportunity if you want to take advantage of a scholarship and still get a master's and also get a bachelor's and a master's all within the same thing. The other idea is look for tuition waivers. Now, this is not exactly the easiest thing in the world to do, but it's something that you can Google and find out a little bit more about. Number 8 is join the military. Now, for some people, again, this could be a very scary endeavor, but other students like I've worked with have wanted the military experience, and ROTC is offered at many, many, many of even the most prestigious universities in the country. And ROTC will give you a full 4-year scholarship plus an annual stipend. And another option is service academies. So you have the different military academy universities that are all extremely prestigious too. And if you get in, it's a full ride as well. So that's a great opportunity there. Number 9 as an idea is get an employer to pay for your education. Now, I know these students are still in high school, but you never know. Maybe they have a job that they were able to get at a very young age because of their experience. Now with technology, younger students are probably more qualified than adults, right? Because they might have computer programming skills or social media marketing, or they might be highly desirable by certain companies. And if that's the case, let's say your student graduates high school and starts an internship before going to college at this incredible startup company or another company that really sees a potential in the student, they might offer to pay for their education. So this is another way of going about this. Number 10 is work for a college or university. So if you happen to be lucky enough to work at a university, your child will go for free at that school. So that's another way to save money. Or or the student can also work at the university full time and potentially be able to go for free to that school as well. Now, I know it's like, as a parent, you're probably like, I don't want my child working full time. And I understand I'm sure it's extremely difficult, but I'm giving you all the options, all the creative options that you can choose from. Number 11, apply to a school that has no tuition. So believe it or not, there are schools in this country that have no tuition. So if they might not all be what you're looking for, but for some, it might be a great option. A lot of them tend to have some religious affiliations. Number 12, lower your standards so you can get more scholarship money at a college where you are in the top 25% of their class, and that is not a brand name college. Now, this is very hard for parents to understand, especially students. Most students and parents want their students to apply to the hardest school that they can get into. But what happens when you apply to the hardest school that you can get into is that you're competing with the top students all over the world. And if your profile is not as strong, you will most likely not get scholarship money. So the key to getting scholarship money from the schools that most interest you is look at their academic profile. Look at the range of GPA and even potential test scores of the students from last year's incoming freshman class. And if your student is over that, that's a good sign. If your student falls within it, not a good sign for scholarship. Good sign to get in, but potentially not for scholarship. So that's something else you want to make sure to look at, especially if you're looking at scholarship. And option number 13 is stay local. Now, stay local, I mean potentially in-state. Our in-state tuition is one of the lowest in the countries. It is extremely affordable, and you will get so much more out of your college education than you would for the money you're going to spend for an education in the state of Florida at a public school. So there really should be no reason as to why you shouldn't pursue an education, higher education. And the other option, of course, is going to community college, which I didn't put it here because I feel like that's it's very common. But I do want to point that out, that another option is you can start at a community college, do 2 years, get your AA, and then transfer to the college of your choice. And right there, you just saved about half the tuition of what it would have cost you to go 4 years to that one school. So that's another thing. One more thing that I didn't put here that I do want to share is that there are scholarships. Not all schools offer merit scholarships. Merit is when it's based on academic or special talents, okay? If you are looking to apply to an Ivy League school like Harvard, Yale, Brown, UPenn, none of those schools offer scholarships. Why? Because the brightest students from all over the world are applying there. So that's everyone, right? Everyone should get a scholarship there. And unfortunately, nobody does. But there are highly selective universities that are just as incredible that offer merit scholarships, like Duke, for example, or Rice, or USC, or NYU. These schools offer merit scholarship. Now, is it easy to get it? No, because The students that get rejected from the Ivies that can or cannot afford the Ivies are all applying to these schools. So they're amazing students as well applying for these scholarships. Is it impossible? No, but it is another option that I really, really heavily advise you to do your research. And of course, for those students that are already working with me, that work will be done and you will know this ahead of time. So you're not wasting your time applying to schools that you will not be able to afford. And another thing to keep in mind is going back to the topic of Duke, for example, Duke has a very interesting program in terms of merit. They work with another organization called Robertson. And Robertson offers full ride scholarships to 2 universities. One of them is Duke and another one is UNC Chapel Hill. Typically, to get a full ride at UNC Chapel Hill is extremely difficult. But if you were to apply through the Robertson Scholarship and you got in, that's your full ride right there. So sometimes even if you went on the college's website and you didn't see that UNC Chapel Hill offered a full ride or had a very few, very small percentage of students that get that, or maybe out-of-state students don't qualify for that, you might want to look at these other options of other organizations that offer these full ride scholarships specific to these universities. 2 other organizations that come to mind that I want to share, and then I'll open it up to questions. One of them is called Posse, P-O-S-S-E. And the other one is called Questbridge. The difference between these are 2 full scholarships. Posse covers full tuition, where Questbridge covers everything, tuition and room and board. The difference between these 2 as well is that the Posse scholarship is for students that have very, very, very strong academics and leadership abilities, but it's not based on financials. So that's a good thing about this program, is that you don't have to qualify for financial aid in order to get this scholarship. You just have to be a great student and have leadership potential, so to speak. So I'm going to show you here, I'll quickly share my screen with you guys just so you guys can see and get the name of the website. So this is the Posse Scholarship. And these are the schools. The Posse Scholarship is not offered nationwide. It's offered by regions. So I'm going to show you here the different cities that it's in. If I could find it. Where is it? Okay. Okay, so these are the cities that Posse recruits from. If you are in these cities, you are very lucky. Miami happens to be one of them. So I'd like to show you the colleges that are associated with Miami. So each city has a list of colleges that they partner with. Here's the partner colleges. So there's Posse Atlanta. We're going to go to Posse Miami. All right, so these are the schools. You have Davidson College, which is a highly selective, a very elite liberal arts school. Students that want to potentially do engineering, this school has a partnership with Columbia and Washington University in St. Louis. They will get 2 dual degrees, 1 degree from Davidson and another degree from Columbia or WashU if engineering is what they want. Another highly small liberal arts schools. A lot of them are small liberal arts schools, but they offer extremely rich education and they tend to be more broad in terms of their offerings. So students that love learning about a lot of different things, these schools are excellent options for them. So this is another one, Franklin and Marshall. Then you have Hamilton, in upstate New York, you have Mount Holyoke in South Hadley, Massachusetts, Pomona in Claremont, California, which is also really great. And even though, so you know, it has a population of 1,650, which is probably the size of your high school, or if maybe a little bit more, this school in particular is part of a consortium of many other of like 4 or 5 colleges on the same campus. So you're not necessarily missing out on the big campus feel, because a lot of them are part of consortiums of other nearby schools, and they share, you can cross-register at their campuses, you can eat in their dining facilities, they host a lot of events together, so things like that. Then Syracuse, this is the biggest one of all those schools from Posse. This was in Syracuse, New York, and it has about 15,000 undergraduate students. It's also a very good school too. So that's what Posse is. And then QuestBridge is based on financial need. So if you have financial need, this is an incredible option. And by financial need, I mean your family makes under $60,000 a year. And these are all the schools affiliated with QuestBridge. So it is literally all of the most elite universities in the country. Yeah. And that's it. So the website is questbridge.org, and Posse is possefoundation.org. These scholarships begin receiving nominations as a junior. So if your student is a junior and you're interested in these opportunities, the nomination process is going to start very soon. So I would do the research and see if this is an opportunity. There are certain restrictions. Some of them are binding. So this is something to take into consideration if you are looking and want to keep your options open. If you are just interested in getting a full scholarship and don't care what the other options are, if you got that full scholarship, then that's an amazing place for you. All right, so questions, guys. One of the things I did want to say is in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start a new 5-week course that's going to be for the college search. So in these 5-week courses is going to be for the students, for junior students that are wanting to build their list and have very concrete ideas of realistic options of what it's going to cost, of if they're going to get in, what are the chances, and that will help them align themselves for applying to separate scholarships when they get into their senior year. If you wait till senior year to build your college list, you're going to be super overwhelmed and not have the time to apply to all the other amazing scholarship opportunities that you could have had. So I'll be sending out information about the college course if you're in the college search course, if you're interested. All right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I hope this was insightful and helpful. And next month, we'll be covering another topic. Still not sure what it would be, but I have a couple of ideas. And if you have any other ideas of stuff you want to talk about, just shoot me an email. You all should have it by now, but in case you don't, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the chat box. Make sure when you send me an email, please, that there is 3 A's in the word Pangea, P-A-N-G-A-E-A, life.com. Unfortunately, I don't get lots of emails because of this sophisticated name I decided to give my company 10 years ago, and I haven't come around to changing it, but I probably should, but I probably won't. All right, guys, well, have a good night. And
Thank you.
I will see you then.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you,
so
Katie.
Thank you. Thank you very
Have a
much.
good
Good
night.
night. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
much. Bye.
Bye.